Hello and welcome to the Billion Dollar Broker Podcast. My name is Ross Le Quesne. I'm bringing my 25 years industry experience together with leading experts around the globe to give you the insights on how to live a better life and grow a profitable mortgage broking business that you are proud of. Welcome to another episode of the Billion Dollar Broker Podcast. I'm Ross Le Quesne. I've got a fantastic guest today, Aaron Christie-David. He's a co-founder and broker of Atelier Wealth, and award-winning broker, been around for a number of years now at the top of his game, and he can add another string to his bow now as an author. So he's just released a couple of weeks ago the Happy Home Loan Handbook, and we might just start there. So welcome, Aaron, and how did you become an author, mate?
Let's call it a little bit of an accident, Ross. But yeah, look, I had my book launched the other week, and I got asked that question. I didn't set out to become an author. I didn't have aspirations, but there definitely was a turning point last year where it was the SMH article in May last year that said 1 in 10 young Australians believe they can get into the property market. Mm. You've done broking for a number of years. There's no way that number success rate's 10%. Absolutely no way. And that lit a fuse in me because I'm like, that is such bad misinformation that's getting peddled around. And if that's what people are believing, that makes our jobs infinitely harder, that we can convince people that they can actually get into the property market. I reckon that's the inverse. 90% of young people should believe that there's a way to get into the market, right? Anyway, told that to Bernie. I came out ranting as I usually do with the team, and they all laughed. And then Bernie said, well, why don't you do something about it? Like, seriously, like, put that energy to good use. And I'm like, right. I called up a publisher. They took my call and I said, here's my idea. Like, home ownership can't be dead in the water. We need to find a way to ignite this for young Australians. Here's my idea for a book. And they said, awesome, write a few chapters. And I did. But that work got torn to shreds because I'm not a writer, I'm a broker. So I wrote as I would speak, and it's a different medium. And they took my chapters, they edited it, came back, and through a process, then they said, look, can you write more? And that kind of really set the wheels in motion for me to last year is to take time out of the business and focus that time and energy on writing the book. And that's kind of the start of the journey. And then it kind of grew from there and became a bit of a beast in terms of, I guess, naturally workload, but also like the energy and effort that goes with it. And, the finished product, I'm super delighted with what's gone to print.
And I'm interested, right? Because, one of the things that you said there, right? So I know you're an award-winning broker. You've got a team of, what is it, around 25 people?
Yeah, 25 now.
Yeah, around 25 people in the business. You're still writing a bunch of loans yourself. How did you find the time or the discipline to write a book amongst, juggling that with family and work demands?
Definitely a team. There's no way to sugarcoat that. But there's an incredible team that when I step out, they step up. And I had that with one of our writers, Damien, he writes more than me. He went on a 3-week holiday just recently. And that meant we all had to pitch an extra 20% to cover his workload between the rest of the team. So I think we've got this culture for us inside. We definitely have a culture inside that is, if someone steps out on their holidays, we have to step up out of respect because I want that same level of respect when I go on my break. And so we pay that forward to team members, where Damien doesn't take his holiday, his laptop on a holiday or his phone, he gets a proper break to switch off, which is what we all want. So to go back to your question, the team knew how important it was that what a book could do for us as a business, but also for a broader community too. And so last year I took 3 weeks. I went to Thailand. I wrote exclusively for those 3 weeks. And that meant, Bernadette, my wife, is running the household, running the business, and herself as well. And, I've got a huge amount of gratitude to Bernie for giving me that space to go and do something like that. But she knew this is my time. Like, this is my chance, this one opportunity that I get to write something that's of value. And I think you said there, it's around priorities. I used to kind of, and you'd have this with your own coaching clients, I used to kind of always say, I'm out of time. I don't have enough time in the day. I'm so busy. And then someone said to me, mate, you don't have a time problem. You've got a priority problem. And that was when the penny really kind of dropped for me. I said, yeah, what am I doing that isn't serving me? Where is my time actually going as well? And I got really, I got really sharp with what I said yes and no to. And that gave me that space and that time back. So there's things that are non-negotiable. You're the same, mate. You like to train. I like to train. I like to keep healthy. I like to be around for dinner time with the kids or a drop off or a pick up here and there as well. I like social. So I kind of go, these are my times that I block out for social, for health, sauna sessions, catch ups with date nights with Birdie. And then I know how much time I need to work as well. And I think clarity on what my priorities are very much helped, if that answers your question.
Yes, definitely. And that's exactly what you quoted there is exactly what I did with my team members at the end of last year and the start of this year. I'm like, all right, let's sort of do your big goals, your big rocks, your pebbles and then the sand, right? So in terms of, and you've got to do your big rocks, yes, from a business goals, but also from the time, what are the most important things that you want to achieve this year from a lifestyle perspective, right? And the things that you mentioned, the holidays away, the date nights, I know for me, I used to coach my son's, rugby team. And so, every Wednesday night, I ensured that was the first thing, that was a priority in the diary, obviously taking the time to stay healthy, to be fit and to be trained, because I think a lot of people have it in reverse where, their business becomes their life rather than creating the chunks and putting those in the calendar first, and then you can build a business around your priorities. So I love what you said about.
And also you've noticed that there's a bit of a pattern. Like I look at more recently, and yeah, it's a bit out of kilter at the moment that with the book launched, we're doing commercial property at the moment, fit out. And so it's a bit out of balance. Like I'm not able to train every day. Now it's 5 out of 7 at the moment, right? So there's a season that we've kind of experienced going, we're getting busy for a time, but there were times last year where I was out the door about 4:30, right? And I was like, this is amazing. If I could repeat this week every 52 weeks of the year, I'd be sweet. And then we're like, now I'm here back on the laptop at night trying to do extra stuff, personally around the book launch. It's like, but this is not going to be forever. And I think that sometimes we really get caught in that headspace when we're busy. It's like, we're just going to be this way forever. It's like, hey, this is a bit of a season at the moment, and we'll come out of that. Just like you had your soccer son, son's soccer or rugby. It's for a season, and you get busy during that point. You know it's going to drop off at some point too, right?
Oh, exactly right. And the time when you say that I think about is the time up until the break at Christmas time, because, you know, and I did a challenge for myself, 60 loans in 60 days.
Yeah.
Leading up to that, I knew I was going to be in Canada for 6 weeks. I was going to switch off. I wasn't going to have my phone, but I knew that, hey, there's a season that I can go hard for 60 days. Rugby's finished, September, that time to write business is the spring season, right? I think back in our wizard days when you were marketing manager, we used to do a spring campaign every year. And there's a reason, right? Because that's the time where it's really the time to sort of crack in and write as much business as you possibly can. And I agree with you. It's, just like it's natural that there's seasons, there's times when the leaves fall off the trees and they're not growing, right? It's natural to have the winters in our lives, and it's natural to have, the springs where things are really booming. I think, what you're saying in terms of, just acknowledging, hey, this is just where I'm at right now. It's a busy time. I won't always be launching a book, but at this point in time, I am. And so, I'm going to have to do a little bit more.
Correct. Yeah, it's a making peace with that, mate. And yeah, there's a lot to be said about the internal battle, isn't there?
Definitely. I think, that leads us to one of the things that we want to talk about now, which I think is crucial for most brokers out there, is getting the internal right so they can get the external right. So, and the internal starts with mindset. I know this is something big for you and something big for you and your team. So I want you to talk to this point in terms of, what are the things that brokers can do to really get their internal game right?
Yeah, there's, and this is probably and you would be the same when you're coaching a team. That's the battle. And probably at the start where there's that lack of self-belief sometimes. You're like, am I good enough? we'll still all have that. We'll still compare ourselves to some of the bigger writers in the business, in the industry as well. But I think shutting that off has definitely helped. Like having a good support, say Bernadette, even with my kids, where they don't even care how much I write, right? They just want to see me, they just want to see me dressed up and do something productive with myself. So I feel like I've got this good anchor, which is, hey, if we're better than yesterday, that's all that matters. If we're trying, we're not perfect, but hey, man, if we're trying, awesome. Let's show up that way. And the two pillars in our business are ownership and accountability.
Mm.
Ownership to a client and accountability to one another. And if we show up that way, I find that if we just keep coming back to those two characteristics and two pillars, we tend to be in a pretty good path. Attitude is a major thing. And I see this even with other brokers where they project a lot, project their own insecurities. So clients will come to me and go, oh, should I buy that next property or can I buy? I'm like, you could buy 5 more investment properties. Let's go. And they're like, whoa, no one's ever had this self-belief. I'm like, I believe in myself that we'll get there. We'll own a big portfolio. And I'm projecting confidence. And yeah, maybe I've got overconfidence sometimes, but I'm like, no, I see a bigger, brighter future than you do for yourself. That's my job. My job is the confidence game. And that's the same with the team. I tell our team, don't just come here for a paycheck. Come here to use your paycheck to go and buy investment properties and build your portfolio. So you're not trading your time for money. And yeah, you talk about this like inner dialogue and this inner self-belief. Like, I'd like to think that I've got a fair amount of that, because if I don't believe in myself, who will? If I don't show up to clients believing in them, who will? They'll find someone else that does. And that's taken time. That naturally, I've got runs on the board, I've got skills, I've got tangible outcomes that we've, ways that we've helped clients as well. And over time, you just go, no. I have a real confidence in my ability, my referral partners' abilities, that we can take someone to the next level. And I do it with team. Like Damien and Bernie are the ultimate reflection of that. Like between Damien, Bernie, and I, we had never ridden alone ever before we started this business. We have no business being brokers because we didn't have any technical knowledge. But what we did know is that we could help people buy properties and then scale up their portfolios. And now when Damien does, whatever he does in a month and he writes more than me, mate, he never even used Excel or email before he joined this business. Mm. And so to now watch him train our next group of brokers that are coming through, that gives me like a huge kick, because I'm like, mate, if I didn't set those wheels in motion, if we didn't believe in him, if he didn't believe in himself, we would have played such a small game. But now this ripple effect is now he's talking to clients, some of them are partners in law firms or accounting firms. Like our ripple effect is just so big and we're having such a profound impact. I'm like, why would we stop? Why don't we just keep going and make this pie even bigger? So that's why I talk, brokers that are thinking small, want to play a safe game. I'm like, just think about the broad impact you could have on other people's lives, where your clients are buying more properties, where your team's buying more properties. Our team in the Philippines are buying properties. Like there is a significant wealth impact that we can have.
I love that. I love that. And just to cap on a couple of those things, I think I love it, right? So the one around the ownership. So it's not about anyone else. It's not sort of looking at who's in the next lane and how fast they're going or what they're achieving. It's how can I show up and be the best version of myself in a day in, day out? And then it's the team. How can I be accountable to everyone around me? Because my success is going to reflect on them and their success. So I think that is, something I take away from that. The next thing I take away from that is what I call selling your certainty, right? And your confidence is what you need to transfer. Someone once said to me that sales is a transfer of energy, right? So if you're coming with the right energy and you're coming with the right certainty, and if you look at the market at the moment, you look at all the property fundamentals. We've got, record low vacancy rates, about 1% around the country. We're not building enough properties for the demand. I think I read something the other day, with all the immigrants that are coming into the country, we're only building 1 in 4 of the houses that are required, right? So there's a lot to be excited about in terms of, the fundamentals around property and the outlook for property in terms of creating wealth. And, you asked that question, and I know you've built the book to give, first home buyers the certainty to be able to take some steps that will get them in the market. And so when you look at everything, and quite often, many people will say, hey, there's a lack of business, there's no leads. And part of that is because they're not willing to have a conversation that challenges the thinking of the clients. They may ring up and they'll talk to the client, existing client, about their rate. Are they looking at refinancing? Do you want to save money on your existing loan? But they're not creating any word pictures or creating any certainty about what a brighter future for that client may look like. And one of the things that I love about what you said, and I'm a property investor, I wholeheartedly believe in what you're saying, because I've been there and achieved it in my own life, and I've helped many of our clients sort of achieve that as well. And that's a real gift that you can give to people. And it's the reason that I attracted a lot of clients to me as a broker, because someone would say, oh yeah, Ross is a gun at investing, go and speak to him. So that attracts people to you, become that attraction sort of broker. But how do we become that? Similar to you, because we're positive, because we understand what the benefits for clients, and we have a really good market knowledge about all of the fundamentals that are going on in the background and the steps that they need to take. And as you said, you've helped thousands of customers now. So what does that give you?
Absolutely, right? It gives you mad credibility.
Yeah, mad credibility to be able to do that. And, but as you said, there's times in your own life, and I know in my life as well, even being one of the top brokers in the country, there's time when you doubt yourself. Right? There's time, that negativity bias creeps in. Right? So yes, again, being the number one broker, the number one, but still there's a level of sort of, when I look back at my broking career, there was a level of anxiety that drove me saying, hey, I wasn't doing enough. I can be doing more, right? And I think in all of us, there's that sort of, negativity that can creep in, where we need to sort of be able to rise against that and just realize that, hey, this is sort of a friend. That fear, that anxious thoughts are going to be there, but it's sort of acting despite of those things.
Yeah. Hey, we're human, right? Even I reckon number one, number two brokers are still human in the country, that they've got feelings too, right? Everyone looks at them as like superhuman, but hey, number two is chasing number one. It never ends, does it?
Exactly right. And, which probably leads us on to our next point that I wanted to chat about, because, it's like every time, and you're putting yourself out there, you've even putting a book out there. I'm sure there was a voice in the back of your head that said, who am I to write this book? Right. Who's going to read a book written by me? But you push on through courage and you put yourself out there. Right. And it's the same every time we put ourselves out to market anything, whether it's a video, whether it's a piece of content, whether it's a seminar, there is that sort of doubt. But for you, we met back in the Wizard days when you were the sort of marketing manager back in Wizard Home Loans. So that's going on about 20 years ago now, I think. But marketing, we have to be strong and we have to put ourselves out there to market. So talk to me about marketing in your business, because I know that's something you're passionate about.
Yeah, look, and I'm at a huge advantage that it's something that came naturally to me. 2 marketing degrees, Bernie says, put that to use as well. So, look, I do come with a natural inclination to see the power of marketing. I saw it work for you guys, and stuff that you're doing all those years ago. We still follow a number of that. Like, we still send out a quarterly printed newsletter that's sleek, that goes out to people's mailboxes. There's some things that are just time tested that work every single time. I guess I meet a lot of brokers who just go, how do you get leads? And I was like, that shouldn't be your problem. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, mate, you solve problems daily. The amount of case studies that we see on every client's a case study. Like, it shouldn't be hard to get leads through the door. So I always get surprised that that's one pushback that I get a lot of clients, questions that I get from brokers. The way to reframe marketing for me is, and I got challenged on this years ago, with those, you sit on all this knowledge, right? I'm like, yes. You can help so many people get into the market. I'm like, yes. And they go, but if you're not telling more people about that, that's selfish. And I was taken aback by that because I'd never known marketing to be looked at in that context. But it's so true. If you're good at what you do, why wouldn't you tell more people? That's not shameless self-promotion. That's actually coming from a desire to help more people. And if your message can then get amplified, it resonates with more people, they tell more people. Again, we're talking about that ripple effect. Isn't that amazing that people are talking about you when you're not in the room in a very positive light and like, hey, you've got to speak to this person. So whether it's word of mouth, and brokers say, I don't spend any money on marketing. Hey, mate, but you've kind of exchanged your cost of goods sold includes some type of goodwill that people are going to talk about you when you're not in the room. And for me, the way I've built our marketing ecosystem is purely opt-in. There's no funnels that we run. We don't actively manage to our prospects or our leads. We kind of opt in and they go, we're going to give you access to information. So the podcast is one example of that. Now the book is another part of that. The videos that we put out on YouTube and socials is another part of that, because people will find and connect with the messages in a very different way. Yeah. And then we just have to harness our marketing machine, which is, okay, is the website built for SEO? Okay, great. Let's unpack that a little bit. Is our branding on par with the type of client that we're trying to attract? Because we want a bit more of an affluent, double income, aspirational type of client. Okay, great. Let's make sure our branding reflects that. Is the community work that we're doing on par with the how we want to be perceived in market and aligned to our vision and values? Okay, great. Let's do that. I don't look at it as like a return on marketing investment. That's probably where I always struggled in marketing, going, hey, mate, if you just spent the right money in the right areas, no doubt you'll get a return on that investment. You don't need to sit there and quantify that and get a percentage of return on marketing investment. It will happen if you do the right activity and attract the right client. And I think that we got very clear on the type of client that we want to attract and who we work with. Doesn't mean we say no, but it just means we want to say yes to more of that type of client. And it's hard. It's hard because that's years of like knowledge. It's years of working inside Wizard, which was an excellent marketing organization, years inside CBA, which is an excellent marketing organization. So I was surrounded by some excellent marketing leaders, and I was able to see what was best practice. But as brokers, you can see what's best practice because you can see who's really killing it. Like, there's no rule that brokers have to go and suddenly write a book. But I played that game because I can connect with that medium. I'm not on TikTok. Like, I look at some others that are awesome on TikTok. I'm like, I'm so happy for you. Or other brokers that are great at webinars or seminars. And we know the brokers who do that really, really well. I'm like, they've found their jam. All it is once you've hit it, be consistent. And you know that, but that consistency, like you guys were killers at that with the Parramatta. It was the consistency. It was a little bit boring, but that's what consistency is, and it gets the results because you just keep showing up.
I love that. I mean, so much to unpack in terms of what you've just said there. I think, reflecting on what you've said about marketing, for me, the things that have come out, and one of my mentors said to me that you will affect more people through your marketing than you have as clients, right? Yeah. So by that focus on sharing, and a lot of people think that they have to share themselves, right? And I think this is where some people get unstuck, is they think they need to put themselves out there. So what I'm going to challenge them to do, rather than put yourselves out there, put your thoughts and ideas out there.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's your thoughts and your ideas and your strategies that are going to help people. It's not really about you. All right. And so again, don't take things personally. Just put your thoughts and your ideas out there, because as Aaron mentioned, they have the power to change people's lives. Right? And all of that information, you think about the book you've written, you think about how many first-time investors, you invest in property yourself, you're just investing in a commercial property. Now, all of that gold that you've got at your fingertips that you've helped clients with over the past, you can then go and do. The next thing I like what you said is find your own jam, find out what works for you. And for the brokers that don't know what works for them, go back and look at the last 20 deals that you've written. Where did it come from? Oh, it came from referral. It came from an existing client. It came from LinkedIn. Okay, right. Work out what's working for you within the business and do more of it, right? And as you mentioned, in terms of it's the consistency to take action on whatever those activities are for you. And the last part that I took about what you said was really understanding your niche, understanding that target client, and everything has been built around that target client. So professional, double income, looking to create wealth. Okay, what sort of website would they want? How would they like to be communicated to? On what forums are they going to be on? And creating the marketing system around that, because at the end of the day, and someone said this to me the other day, which I really liked, marketing is all about creating conversations.
Yeah.
All right. So whether we do that by picking up the phone, but the aim of it is to create a conversation. And depending on the quality of our marketing is the quality of the conversation. I know we were talking about over the last couple of weeks where, if you get a client that has listened to your podcast, right, what is the quality of that lead like, Aaron?
Oh, it's incredible. They're so subscribed. They've been listening, and it's amazing. They're like, I've been listening for a year, and now they've reached out. When you talk about, the average number of podcasts is 7 per show. And it's like they gave up too soon. Like you just maybe have started to hit your straps. And this, Ross, like setting your podcast up, it takes a little bit of time and energy. You got to line the guests up, you got to promote it, you got to cut it up, you got to do the SEO around it. There is no doubt it takes some work. But we can only talk one-on-one to so many people in a day, but the podcast has got an incredible reach. And they listen to it when they want, they absorb that information how they need to as well. They can slow it down, they can listen to it faster, they can choose and cherry pick which episodes they want to listen to. It's such a beautiful medium. And the podcast started purely because I got sick of answering the same questions over and over again. I was like, they can't even remember this information because it's so technical. And I said, I'm just going to jump in and record a few episodes and then feed that out when people had those frequently asked questions. So it may not even be like you need to get a studio. It may just be, hey, get Loom, shoot a few frequently asked videos, and you've got a little suite that you just go, hey, watch this. Hey, check this one out. Here's one I did for a client similar to you. And the clients then just retain that information so much better because they're absorbing it in their own time rather than over a phone call when you could say so many things and they just don't recall any of it by the end of that call, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if someone's invested, 45 minutes or whatever the length of your podcast is, and again, you said maybe 7 episodes, that's a big chunk of time, right? Rather than a Facebook post or a 90-second video, that's a huge amount of time, a huge amount of investment in you. So in terms of, yes, you're not going to see that payoff, as you mentioned, on day one, and it takes time to build that sort of content, but the quality and the type of client that you're going to generate from that is going to be within that sweet spot of who you're looking to speak with. And on that point of starting conversations, and we spoke about this in regards to prior to jumping on the call, where you mentioned around hitting lead targets.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to talk to me a little bit about hitting lead targets?
Yeah, I mean, we, like any good brokerage and any good business, we've got our dashboard with our KPIs that we track week in, week out. And one of those is our lead targets. So yeah, so what we do is we worked kind of through our conversion rates. So we know how much we need to settle this year. We work kind of backwards. So settlements, app submitted, scenarios, client sent out, fact find sent out, discovery calls, leads opportunities, for example. And then what we've actually done is gone even more upstream on that one, and we have a KPI called connected phone calls. So we know that if a broker makes enough outbound calls, at some point the tide turns and we go, the hunter now becomes the hunted. So you go, and you have this in your career, right? Where you feel like you're making calls, and you're trying to chase people. And at some point, the scales tip and they start calling you. And you're like, geez, mate, I don't do any outbound calls anymore. But people are coming to me. And that's when we know a broker has really started to hit their straps, when they go from being the hunted to being the hunted. And the leads for us is the ultimate upstream metric, which is if we're hitting our lead targets, that means the marketing needs to be firing on all cylinders. That means we need to be giving a great client experience, that we're getting good referrals and our partners are happy as well. When all that's kind of in sync, we know we're being green. And it's the long game, mate. Like the first half of this year, I'd say we're green, and we set a pretty ambitious lead target. We'll probably be green maybe 6 or 7 times in the first half of the year. In the second half of the year, since we've come back in January, every single week has been green. And
how often do you look at the lead target?
Every week. I'm checking numbers daily. I'm a bit of a demon. I check numbers daily. At the end of the day, how we're tracking, because I can turn things around. Like if we're short by Wednesday, I'm like, right, it's a prospecting blitz come Thursday. And I can make that change pretty quickly because there's 2 days left. We then track it. We have an end of week call for our whole team, and we're red or green. There's no gray areas. We're red or green on all our metrics. And by the end of the week, Friday, we know come next week, there might be a little bit of catch up to play, or we're set up for a really strong month because the start of the week, the first week of the month has got off to a flying start. And I think, we've got a lot better at that, which is, being able to read the scoreboard. And I tell the team, this business is such a delayed gratification. It's like what you do now impacts you in 100 days' time. Like you just can't. We're not selling widgets where we can run a promotion and away you go. It's like by the time you get the client through, buy a property or refinance, then settle, then get paid, you don't see the fruits of your labor for 100 days. And trying to get everyone on board to understand that takes a little bit of time for those dots to connect. But once they do, then they start to see that magic. If I make, my 30 calls this week, I'm going to have enough apps in the next month or 2.
Oh, exactly right. And I think, a lot of brokers miss that. And again, it comes down to priorities, and I call them dollar productive activities. And as you mentioned, our applications and our settlements are results. We've got to look at the lead indicators. The lead indicators are, what you call connection calls. And, as I mentioned, marketing is about having conversations. What's the quickest way to start a conversation? Pick up the phone, right? It's, it's not
Don't
rocket
send
science.
emails. Don't send. You pick up the phone and you make the call.
Exactly, right? You pick up the phone and you make the call. And, we're talking about, people that are either existing clients who are prospects. Quite often, some of the newer brokers will come to me and go, Ross, I don't know who to call. And, I say, well, who's on your phone? Create a list of everybody on your phone. Go through your emails. Get a list of all the people that you've been corresponding through emails. Who's your, on your Facebook, on your socials, on, it's not that hard once you start to work out exactly who you know and create a list of them.
It's not that hard, but it's not easy to do because it takes work, isn't it? And that's what we tell the team. Like, it sounds simple, but you got to pull the trigger then at some point. And when you keep coming back and asking the same question, there's a behavior problem here. And it's like, we can help. It's the same thing with coaching. It's the same thing with a team. You can lead a horse to the water, but you've got to be willing to do some work. You've got to make those calls. And that's probably where, I've been privy to see some of the diaries of best brokers when I've spent time, at the start of my career, knocking on their doors, going, show me what you do. Mate, 10 years later, they're still making the calls. 10 years later, they're still doing the meetings. And it's like, there is a delayed gratification in mortgage broking versus real estate. We have to play the long game.
Yeah. Yeah, but real estate's no different, right?
Dude.
I listen to some real
Yeah.
estate podcasts, and
Yeah.
they're exactly the same. Like they're probably make
They're in a
more
harder
calls
position.
than a broker. They probably make up to 100 a day. Because it's a slightly different, less technical business. But again, it's still around sort of having those conversations with their vendors and their prospects, and
Yeah.
providing quality information, right? And that's the same as brokers in terms of being able to have good conversations, sell your certainty, know what's happening in the market, and know around property investing, know about the options for first home buyers, whatever your niche is, and being able to provide value. Because we can guarantee you do that, as you said, on a consistent basis, day in, day out, then, and I love that you've got those lead targets. I love that you're looking at it, every day. It's what I sort of, drum into the people that I'm coaching.
Yeah.
Okay, what are those lead activities? What are the tactics to hit your targets? Because that lag effect you mentioned is a real thing. It's a real thing. And your business has got to that level now where you have grown significantly, right? So since I met you, and I've followed your journey ever since you started your broking career, and now you've gone from strength to strength, and with a team of 25 people now. And we were chatting offline about how your dynamic has changed. And
Yes.
now you were saying to me, for the first time, Ross, in a long time, I've now got a boss. So, your co-founder and your wife, Bernie, is now taken the roles of a CEO. So let's talk about the growth and the scale, and, how things change within a business and how it's led you to where you are today.
So let's start at the beginning. So just me, pumping out the hours and doing everything in the business. And then at some point you get jacked of it, and I've recruited a really good team. And let me tell you, recruitment in itself is not a perfect science. It's an art where some team work out, some team don't. You're learning your own abilities as a leader, or as at that stage you're a manager, right? So I'm managing people, and you don't have that time sometimes to invest at the start because you're so busy growing. It's like you need clients more than you need team. And look, over time, Bernie joined the business, and Damien joined the business, and we had an assistant in the Philippines who's still with us today, which is incredible. And then you get good at what's the word? You're good at filtering out for attitude. So some people can really say all the right things in an interview, and I think as you and I are probably similar. It's like we see the best in everyone. It's like, yeah, come on, hire. It's like, okay, great. That didn't work out. It's like, cool, hire again. And it's like failing forward, mate. You say yes, and it's like that they're not going to work out. And in your mind, there's some things you just can't compromise on. There's standards, for example. There's getting back to clients. These are non-negotiables, and you kind of build this list that these are non-negotiables, and you be very clear. At that point, they opt in. They opt in to behave as this business does. And I say we're like a sports team. So occasionally you can knock on, and in rugby, mate, you knock on. It's not the end of the world, right? But if you keep making errors, and you're not willing to show up to training, if you're not willing to be part of the team, if you're not willing to sit in the sheds and have a beer after the game, if you're not willing to kind of get to know each other, you're opting out of that culture. And so I've had to say, some people have to manage people out of the business. Some people have left, and that's cool. We didn't take it personally. And there's a sunk cost that comes with recruitment as well. But over time, mate, we've got some really, really good team members. So then you start to shift that energy going, just like client retention, how do we possibly get our team members to stay with us? So what career progression are we putting in place? How are we training? How are we coaching? How are we leading our team as well? that all becomes really, really important. And I think you have to do a lot of work on yourself. Like it's very introspective going, who I am as a leader. And your question there is around how's that energy changed in the business? I'm a very good starter. I can start projects. I'm not a very good finisher. And that's no secret to anyone in my team that I'm great at going, here's shiny object and here's what we're doing. Bernie's always there to then fix it all up for me. And at some point, I think she got jacked to that going, all right, I can't keep cleaning messes. That's it. I'm going to run. And that's tough, mate, you know, to have your spouse as your boss must have been tough for her. There's no doubt about that, right? I've got like high standards. I can be tough to work with. She lives with her boss, right? But then what we found is the business has got to this point where we need to stop creating new stuff. But we've come out of this really strong growth mode. Now we're coming to this optimization mode, which is we're optimizing the people, the processes, cash flows, you know, really, really consistent. We're looking at investing in the future, for example. So it takes a different energy. And I'm not great at that energy. So Bernie's come in and now the team are adapting to a new change. They're adapting to a new leader as well. I'm a little bit more, I don't know, what's the word? Soft around the edges with team, where Bernie's a little bit more direct, and they've got to adapt to that energy as well. So I should say, look, she'll rip off band-aids, whereas I, you know, tiptoed around not hurting people's feelings. And there's nothing, we're not wrong or right. It's just a different energy. And say, we call it a general manager, CEO, whatever you want to call it. The title's not important. It's the role and the function that she's playing going, mate. And I also got a little bit tired. That's another hard truth, which is 8 years and 10 years in broking, it can weigh you down a little bit. And it's okay. And I think I went through that period where I go, it's okay not to run the show anymore. I can pass the baton on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, that's a great lesson for people in terms of at certain levels that you get to in the business, the dynamic's going to change. The energy that it took to get you there is not necessarily the energy you need to take it to the next level. And, you know, for me, I was a bit like you, Aaron. I'd love to, you know, I used to call it, I'd run through and break through walls, but I'd need people to come off with a dustpan and brush and sort of sweep up after me because, you know, I was more blue ocean thinking. And, you know, I had a partner in the business, which was my brother, Scott. He was a little bit more sort of conservative. So he would, you know, really make me think through my decisions a lot more because he was a little bit more conservative. Actually, I hadn't thought, okay, we've got to do these steps before we get there. And, you know, and again, the balance sort of got us to where we were a successful business and a successful partnership. But at the same time, you know, I got people and managers in to look after things like, you know, the recruitment, the systems, the processes, the documenting, those types of things. And I never outsourced the things that I loved, which was, you know, the referral relationships, the meeting with the high net worth clients, the initial sort of strategy sessions. Yes, I had a team of people doing, you know, what came next. But I think it's realizing, okay, well, what are my skills? What are the things, as you said, you lost the energy for the whole management and, you know, the what came next within your business. But, you know, what are the things that you're passionate about in the business? What are the areas of the business that you truly love that sort of do fill your cup?
Yeah, and this is it. You go, like, you literally draw a line on the page and you go, what gives me energy? Yes, I'll do a happy face and what sad face and what takes away my energy. And it's like, this is the stuff that I find quite draining. And then you go, look, someone else loves that. That's what gives them energy. Like our assistant is fantastic at doing heaps of stuff that I don't enjoy doing. So it's really that yin and yang energy going, someone's going to enjoy doing the stuff I don't because they hate doing the marketing. They hate doing the referral partner meetings. And you and I going, that's our zone of genius. Like you never have struggled for leads because you're like, mate, put me on the phone. I'll make it rain leads, but don't ask me to sit there and like do the operations manual because it'll just be like pulling teeth. And you go, right, and then you think that abundance mindset, I can find someone that's going to love this. And now this business gives them the opportunity to come in and do something that they love.
Oh, exactly right. And yeah, that is the secret of success, getting people doing the things that they love within their own zone of genius, and that's what comes to that skill of recruitment, as you said, and it's almost like a sixth sense, and you get better at your improving your senses as you sort of go along. And similar to you, I've made my fair share of mistakes, but again, we can't do it without a team. We can't do it without a team. And again,
Yeah, we constantly refer to this as a team sport. We look at an analogy of like a football team, and that's easy because everyone understands NRL here. But we go, there's a team that plays offense, there's a team that plays defense, there's people that sit on the bench, there's people that support on the right wing, left wing, for example. You can't do everything. And I think my heart goes out to brokers that aren't playing that team game. They've got to do it all themselves. So I'm like, it's got to get tiring at some point. Imagine you playing against another brokerage that has a team. Like, you're going to lose pretty easily and we'll lose to a bigger team. There's some brokerages that are far bigger than us.
definitely.
They've got a superpower against us. I'm not saying that we all have to, everyone's got to scale up their businesses, but it's just going to understand the game that you're playing, because if we can't do the post-settlement, we've got a good post-settlement team, if we don't have the admin support, that means someone in the team's picking that up, and that's taking them away from what their core role is. So we need to find a way to grow that we're getting clients in, we're retaining them, and then giving that ability to stay with the business as well.
Yeah, I love that analogy, right? You wouldn't run onto a rugby field against 15 solid blokes, and you're a one-person team and expect to win, So and I used to use that analogy as well. And in terms of, the NBA have a farm team when it comes to, taking people off the bench. And, a lot of people talk to me about running a broking team and running maybe a PAYG broking team and saying, well, what if that person leaves? Well, if you've got some other people on the farm team and maybe they're in a credit analyst role, or, they're in a development role, if that person leaves, then there's someone else to step up, right, into that role. And it becomes a bigger strategy around the staff and the team, and understanding that, hey, there is a level evolution. People are going to leave you at certain times, but hey, I've got a staff plan that if that person leaves, then I've got someone to step up that can take their spot, and the business is going to continue. And I think a lot of people lose that foresight when growing a team.
Isn't it amazing that that's what we think? Like, what happens if they went and, I don't know, your PAYG broker became a broker? Isn't that the ultimate compliment? That you've given them the confidence to go out there and do it themselves, and they can back themselves. I think it's a real testament. Now, naturally, how we look at it is going, hey, look, you can be part of a team and you can grow with us, or look, there's nothing stopping you from leaving tomorrow. And I think having that little bit of carelessness around it almost just goes, there's no that desperate energy. Whereas if you put that energy around, I've got to stifle them so they don't leave me, it's like you're almost creating a bigger problem for yourself by having that mindset. It's like, I get to the point where I love our team, but if someone left, I can't stop them. So better off to send them with love and go, good luck to you, and I wish you all the best, than worrying about trying to keep them and like, I don't know, suppress them a little bit as well, is how I look at it.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I love that. I love that analogy. And I think a lot of the bigger and better brokers think that way. It's that abundant sort of mindset that we were talking about before. So we're at the sort of the end of the conversation. One of the things I love to ask is, that sort of, the big one thing, like if you were looking at, taking the steps to really grow and scale your business over the next 12 months, what is that one piece of wisdom? What is that one piece of advice you'd like to leave the audience with today, mate?
Yeah, I'd say who you're surrounding yourself with is critical. And the example of the context. So, I mean, we talk about football a lot. I grew up playing cricket. And so for me, I understand a cricket analogy. I used to play a decent level of cricket, but if I'd gone up a level, I probably would have left some mates behind. And going to that new level would have required me to have a better coach, would have required more training, would have required better equipment, probably even would have required, traveling more for cricket. And at that point, I made a decision to kind of stay where we were, right, in A grade, A reserves. And that meant I got those results, right? Because I stayed at this safe level. But if I'd been willing to push myself a little bit more and make myself more comfortable, I could have done better at cricket. And it's the same thing in broking. If you're just willing to push yourself outside the current people that you've got and take yourself to that next level, which means your mindset changes, which means maybe you go from working at home to finding maybe a co-work space or working in a referral partner's office. And then you're surrounding yourself with that better energy of people going, I'm looking for ways to say yes, as opposed to I'm looking for ways to say no. I'm going to improve my marketing. It's just all these little tweaks that you go, by having that growth mindset, by having that ability to think a little bit bigger and challenge yourself, yeah, it gets uncomfortable. But in 3 years' time, life gets easier. In 5 years' time, life gets even easier, for example, where clients are coming back. You've got a team where you can take holidays now, for example. You're not working weekends or you're not working after hours, and you're actually much happier. And I think the penny drop for a lot of people is going, by growing, you may actually grow your happiness as well.
Oh, exactly. One of my sort of catch cries and outcomes that I talk about is freedom with scale. And
yeah,
a lot of people think that, if I do more, I'm going to actually have less time, but it's the freedom that comes with scale. And it's the freedom to do a number of things that we've spoken about today. It's the freedom to do the types of roles that you choose to do in the business. You and I, we wouldn't have touched the ply line and the computer in many, many years.
What is touching it? That's for sure.
Exactly. And again, the things that we loved in the business, we get to do. And you've got to the point where even running the business, hey, you realize that, hey, that's not something that's serving me anymore. So I'm going to get someone who's better at it than me. So love that analogy. And I think that's a great place to sort of leave our conversation today. So thanks, Aaron. This has been an awesome conversation. I'm glad it's been recorded and people will get the chance to listen to it this time. So yeah, thanks for joining me.
Well, hey, mate, I want to say thank you. I love what you're doing. I love what you're putting out there. And if this just helps one person on their broking journey, then mission accomplished. It's a real credit to what you're putting out there and trying to get brokers to think just that little bit bigger for themselves. Mate, well done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And if you'd like to learn more about the $1 Billion Broker, there's a couple of ways you can interact. One, subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast channel. Number two, join our Facebook group if you haven't already. It's the $1 Billion Broker for mortgage brokers on Facebook. Otherwise, if you'd like to reach out directly and have a chat, go to billiondolarbroker.com.au, and we'd love to see if we can help you with one of our coaching programs. Until next time, I'm Ross Le Quesne, and I'll see you soon.